Shavua Tov, good luck everybody. Learning the Silos Yesharim, the Path of the Just, in the Art Scroll Elucidated Edition, which we use. We're on page 212, and we're on chapter 11, the details of Nikios, the spiritual cleanliness, learning about all of the aspects of all the mitzvahs that one has to be careful to observe to be spiritually clean. And right now we're in the section where we're talking about the mitzvahs ben adam l'chavero, between man and his fellow man, and how important it is that we basically what the Ramchal is going to say, it boils down to is v'ahavta l'recha kamocha, to love your fellow as yourself. And there are many details to this law, and many times when it's very difficult to treat your fellow as yourself. And we are in the middle of that and going to be talking about a particularly difficult mitzvah, which is not taking revenge. Sweet revenge. Okay, so let's get started. Page 212 in the Art Scroll Elucidated Edition. Gam hasina v'hanekima kasha ma'od l'sheimalit b'meno leivhudal asher livnei adam. Hatred, hating other people, and revenge is very difficult for foolish people to run away from. Ki ha'adam margish ma'od be'elbanaisav u'mitztar tzar gadol. When a person is pained, when someone does something to you that's inappropriate and they hurt you, naturally, a person feels a lot of pain and a lot of embarrassment over it. V'hanakama, and revenge, hanakama lo mesuka midvash, and revenge is sweeter than honey. Anyone who's taken revenge knows that when you get revenge on an enemy, someone who's wronged you, it's a very good feeling. Kihi menuchas levada, in and of itself, it's helps you relax, gives you comfort. Al kain. L'shiu bekocho la'azov ma shetiva machriach osov yazav al midaisav v'lo yisna mi sheheir bo asina v'lo yikum mimeno behizdam lo shiyuchol hinakim v'lo yitor lo ela esakol yishkach v'yasmer libo ki lo haya chazak ve'amitzu. So since it's such a natural feeling to want to take revenge on somebody who's hurt you or someone who's embarrassed you, if you don't take revenge on them, and if you don't even bear a grudge against them and you don't hate them, you are a person who has it takes a very strong and mighty person to do that, to ignore those natural feelings of wanting to take revenge and subjugating those feelings. The only being that it's easy for to not want to take revenge and to not hate somebody who's done something wrong to him, this is the only being that it's easy for are the angels, the Malachi Hasharis. She'ein b'nei hamidos halo. They don't have these feelings. Angels don't get jealous of each other. So we see how natural it is to feel jealous and to hate somebody who has wronged us. And as the only beings who don't, it's easy to not have those feelings, are the angels. Now, there are a lot of feelings that are natural, but that doesn't mean that we're supposed to just follow our natural feelings. The Torah teaches us to not follow those natural feelings when they don't lead to the best results. Lo el shochne bate chomer asher be'afar yesodam. Right? So he says that the only being that it's easy to not want to take revenge and not have a feeling of hatred are the angels. But any human being who has a physical body and has a physical existence naturally wants to take revenge. Amnum. Gzeres Melechi, nevertheless, it is Gzera from Hashem. Hashem decreed, even though it's very natural, someone does something very wrong to you, Hashem said, don't take revenge. V'hamikros gluyim b'yer heitev, and the verse itself explains it very well. Einam tzrichim perish, you don't even need to explain it, right? Sometimes you have a verse in the Torah that you need to explain to understand. The verse is very simple. Lo sisna es achicha b'lvavecha, do not hate your fellow in your heart. Lo sikom v'lo sitor es b'nei amecha. Don't take revenge and don't bear a grudge amongst your people. Now we're in the 9 days now. We're leading on the week of Tisha B'av, a very somber time for the Jewish people. And what destroyed the Second Temple was sinas chinam, baseless hatred. And here, we're not even talking about baseless hatred means you hate somebody for no reason. Here we're talking about somebody actually did something to you that was wrong. They hurt you. Maybe they cheated you in business, or they embarrassed you in front of a lot of people, and you have a taina to them. They did something wrong to you. Nevertheless, it's still forbidden to hate them. It's still forbidden to take revenge on them, and it's forbidden to bear a grudge against them. Now, what do you do if you feel let's say you feel a hatred towards someone, you're really upset what they did to you. So what you have to do is, you speak to them and you tell them how you feel. Like, I feel really bad what you did to me, and you make up with them and you let them know how you feel, but you don't have that hatred in your heart. Okay. The Inyan Hanakim v'Hanitir Yadua. Now, what's the difference between the Torah forbids two things? It forbids bearing a grudge, and it forbids taking revenge. Now, what's the difference? The Inyan Hanakim v'Hanitir Yadua. The difference is known. The Hainu Nakima, revenge. Lamana mehetiv l'misha lo ratza lehetiv lo o shehera lo kvar. Revenge means to not do good to somebody who didn't do good to you. Unatira. What is bearing a grudge? Lahazker be'eshehu meitev l'misha heralo ezazikara minara she'asalo. It's bearing a grudge means that you do a good thing for him, even though he didn't do it for you, but you tell him that even though you didn't do this nice thing for me, I'm going to do it for you. So, for example, you go to your neighbor's house and you say, hey, would you mind if I borrow your hammer? And you see he's got a whole slew of different hammers there, and he says, nah, no thanks. I'm not gonna lend you my hammer. I don't want to. Okay, fine. And the next day he comes over to you and says, hey, could I borrow your hammer? So revenge is saying, I'm not going to lend you my hammer just like you didn't lend it yesterday. That's taking revenge. That's a prohibition in the Torah. Bearing a grudge, Natira, is saying, I'll lend you my hammer because I'm better than you, even though you didn't lend it to me yesterday. And both of those are prohibitions in the Torah. And Rav Matisyahu Salomon, in his edition of Mesil Yesharim, he has just he gives an example which really brings out this point. Let's say you have to move a bunch of stuff from your house down the block, and your neighbor has a very big truck, and he's not using it. He only uses it for work, and it's Sunday. He's not using the truck, so you go over and say, I have to schlep a lot of stuff out of my garage down the block, and it's a lot of heavy things, and I was wondering if I could borrow your truck. And the neighbor says, no. I'm not lending it to you. Are you using it? No, I'm not using it. I don't want to lend it to you. Okay, so you go to your garage. You have a wheelbarrow. So you take the wheelbarrow and you start, taking the stuff little by little, schlepping down the block, back and forth with this wheelbarrow. You're schwitzing. It's 90 degrees. It's humid, and all of a sudden it starts pouring rain. And you got to finish the job. In the pouring rain, you're taking this wheelbarrow and you're bringing it back and forth, schlepping all this stuff, and you see your neighbor across the street, and he's watching you the whole time, just like smiling, watching you. And you're just like angry. Every time, you're schlepping this stuff, you're just angry that this jerk wouldn't lend you his car. So then you go to bed, and you're exhausted and tired, your bones hurt, take a shower, you fall asleep, and the next day you get a knock on your door, and it's the neighbor. And he says, my grandson's coming over today, and he likes to play with wheelbarrows. Do you mind if I borrow your wheelbarrow? So it's obviously a natural feeling, and a person feels validated, and he feels that he absolutely has the right to say absolutely not, but the Torah says no, you're not allowed to do that. The Torah says you are not allowed to say, I'm not going to lend you my wheelbarrow. You're not even allowed to say to him that I'm going to lend you my wheelbarrow even though you didn't lend me your car. You have to lend him the wheelbarrow. And he says the two reasons. Why does the Torah make us do this? So one, he cites the Rambam, that we have to learn that the world that we're in, it's a transitory existence. We're in Olam Hazeh. We're in a world that we are not going to be here forever. And those feelings that we have that someone did something mean to us, even though we're totally justified, it's not worth it to bear a grudge. It's just not worth it, because we're here today, gone tomorrow, and those things aren't important. So the Torah is teaching us to focus on what's important and to not be so hung up on those negative character traits of, being wanting to take revenge and being upset that someone didn't do something good to us. And the other approach he cites is from the Sefer HaChinuch, that says that even though our friend did something to us which was wrong, nevertheless we have to view that what happened to us is really from Hashem. Nothing can happen to us unless Hashem wants it to happen to us. So while our friend definitely did something wrong, our neighbor definitely did something wrong by not lending us the truck, and he wasn't even using it, but we have to know that the only reason that happened to us was because Hashem allowed it to happen. Hashem wanted me to be schlepping my stuff with a wheelbarrow and not be able to use the truck for whatever reason. So we have to accept. So we shouldn't be mad at our neighbor because really it all came from Hashem. The fact that we didn't have use of the truck was Hashem's decision. So we don't have, and for whatever reason, Hashem wanted us to go through that, and we have to accept that everything comes from Hashem. So we don't have a right to be angry at our neighbor. Now, did our neighbor do something wrong? Absolutely, but that's between our neighbor and Hashem. That's none of our business. That's between our neighbor and God. Nothing to do with us. But from our point of view, we have to realize that everything comes from Hashem. Okay, let's continue. Page 215. And since the Yetzer Hara constantly gets us angry about these things, and he wants us to he wants us to hold on to the anger of what happened. Let's say you passed the test at first. You did not. The neighbor came and he asked for the wheelbarrow, and you lent it to him, and you didn't shove it in his face that you were a jerk yesterday, but I'll lend you the wheelbarrow anyway. You don't say any of that. You do what you're supposed to do. But nevertheless, the Yetzer Hara still wants to trap us. And even if we've mastered this to the point where it doesn't have a large impression what happened, the evil thing that our neighbor did to us, the Yetzer Hara makes sure that it will still have a little bit of an impression. Yomer derech mashal adam. He says to the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination says to a person, Im tirtza litin leish hazeh es asher lo ratza hu latei lo kishenir tzrachta, lefachos lo tineu b'sever panim yafos. He says, okay, I understand that you're going to give it to him, and you're going to lend him the wheelbarrow, but don't smile when you do it. At least don't smile. And even if you're going to help him, don't help him in a large way, help him in a little way. Or even if you want to help him a lot, don't do it in front of him. And okay, even if you're going to help him, he needs your help for something else, and you're going to help him anyway, still, you don't have to be his friend. As long as you're not his enemy, that's fine, right? The Torah says don't take revenge, so you don't have to be his enemy, but you don't have to be his friend. And okay, and even if you're gonna fine, so you want to be his friend, even if you're gonna be his friend, don't be like such a close friend and don't show him love like you were to show him originally. And everything similar to this. The Yetzer Hara tries to get us in similar tactics in every way, meaning even if we've got to the point which is a very lofty level, where we don't take revenge and we don't bear a grudge, the Yetzer Hara still tries to get us a little bit and says, okay, yeah, you're going to do something nice for him and you're going to do the right thing, but don't smile at him. Or at least don't be friends with him anymore. Be cordial, but don't be friends. And if you're going to be friends, don't be good friends like you were. Be like a little more distant. The Yetzer Hara tries to get us in every little way. He tries to make fights between people, and when he can't make fights, he makes it that we shouldn't be as good friends as before. Therefore, the Torah comes with a rule that everything is included in it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your friend as yourself. Kamocha b'lishum hefresh, like yourself, without any separation. A kamocha b'li chilukim, without any distinction. B'li tachbulos umazimos, kamocha mamish. With the way he translates it as without any ruses or machinations. You have to love your fellow as yourself, exactly as yourself. So that is a tall order, but that's what the Torah says. He cites a story here, a famous story from Baruch Bar Lebowitz, that his daughter, he was a famous Rosh Hashiva in Europe, and I believe he passed away just before World War II. And his daughter was to be married to a student, I believe it was a student of his, and he was in a different city. And for some reason, the student broke off the engagement between himself and the rabbi's daughter. And I guess obviously the daughter was very pained, and the rabbi was very pained. It was a very painful experience. The way it was handled, it wasn't handled, I guess, in the best way. And shortly thereafter, this former fiance of the rabbi's daughter sent the rabbi a letter asking him if he could write him a letter because he's trying to get a job and he would like a letter of recommendation. Right? Can you imagine the chutzpah of this person? So what did Rabbi Leibowitz do? He wrote a letter of recommendation, and then he took it to somebody and said, make sure that this letter, that there's no hint that I was upset with him and that I wrote just a positive letter had not that situation with my daughter happened. he was so concerned about not having even though he was totally justified, he hurt his daughter, and the guy asked him to write a letter of recommendation for this young man. He wanted to make sure that it was still a positive letter with effusive of praise for him to help him get a job, and he thought that maybe, he wasn't going to write it as positive had this negative thing happen to him. So the rabbi had someone check it to make sure that it was still as positive had the situation with his daughter not occurred. So we learned that it is very natural for a person to want to take revenge, or to want to bear a grudge, or to hate somebody who did something wrong to him. Especially if it's a very hurtful thing. But the Torah instructs us to not take revenge, not bear a grudge. And the reason is because Hashem wants us to develop positive character traits. We shouldn't care about things like that in this world, right? We're here, in the scheme of things, these things are not important. And also, the Torah wants to teach us that Hashem is in charge, and if something happened to us, it's because God wanted it to happen to us. Somebody did something wrong, that's between that person and God, that's none of my business. And even for those people that don't bear a grudge and don't take revenge, the Yetzer Hara still tries to trap us. Don't be, okay, you're not going to bear a grudge, but still, don't be super friendly to him. You don't have to be his friend anymore. But the Torah tells us, we have to love our fellow as ourselves, and we should strive to, even if someone wrongs us, we should strive to love them anyway, and to treat them with the respect and love that we would want to be treated with. And with that, I hope everyone has a beautiful week, and we should see the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash soon, where we have Avas Chinam instead of Sinas Chinam.